Drew here with Lives Matter. I am here at the Downtown LA Proud Festival. We are going to ask people about what they think about killing babies. Do they think it's okay? Is it wrong? Out here in this beautiful Proud Festival, we love you. Today I'm doing an episode on abortion, pro-choice, pro-life, and I just want your opinion on it. Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice?
I don't think to be pro-choice is to be anti-life. It just puts the idea and the decision in the hands of the women, and that's what I support.
So you would call yourself pro-choice?
No, I wouldn't.
So what would you call yourself?
Someone who supports a woman's right to choose.
All right, so are you guys pro-choice, pro-life? What is your position?
Pro-choice up to a certain point.
Same here, pro-choice up to a certain point.
Okay, so what is that point?
I don't really know. I don't know.
So I'm not very pro-abortion, but I understand that women deserve their own rights. So if they think it's something that they need to do, then up to a certain point, they should be allowed to do that if that's what they decide to do. I think if the baby, if the term is so far out that the baby could potentially live as like premature or something like that, then that's kind of like my gray area where I don't, if the baby can live without the mother, then I think it should be like carried through until, and then put up for adoption. But if it's early in the pregnancy, I don't know. It really depends on the mother's situation.
What is your stance on abortion? Are you pro-life or pro-choice?
I am pro-choice. I think our bodies are our own, and it's a very deeply personal issue that we all have to address. I think education on the matter is definitely important. Do I feel like willy-nilly abortions are a fun thing? No. But I do feel that, again, it's our body, our choice, and you should have the ability to make that choice for yourself.
What's your name?
Nathan.
Oh, let me sit down. Nathan?
Yes.
Awesome. How's it? Sorry, I'm kind of awkward. I'm just gonna let you know. All right, my name is Drew.
Nice to meet you, man.
We're in LA. I like asking the questions that everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
One of the big topics right now in Los Angeles is the issue between pro-life and pro-choice. What are your views on it?
On pro-life and pro-choice?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, well, pretty much I think that it's like everyone has their own like choice. I do think like all lives matter, but at the same time, it is a person's choice. If they, whatever situation they're put in, that they have to obviously deal with it the way they have to deal with it.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Planned Parenthood, they're the biggest example, right? They give teenagers advice that the earliest and the safest time to have abortions is between 4, 6, or 8 weeks after conception, okay? Now, that sounds pretty early, huh?
Yeah, it's like 2 months.
Right? Does it sound early?
Yeah, it's hard to tell at that point.
Now here's the fact. A baby's heart begins to pump at just after 22 days after conception. That's before 4 weeks. What do you guys think about that?
That's pretty early. That seems crazy. I mean,
It's true.
you can hardly tell that a woman's pregnant at that point.
If a teenage girl goes on Planned Parenthood, right? Their advice to them is that a safe time to have an abortion is at least 4 to 6 to 8 weeks after conception takes place. Now, if the baby's heart begins to beat after just 22 days, do you kind of see an issue somewhere around there?
I know with my automobile, even taking it in for oil change exactly when it's due, I don't. So I don't think that women, as far as thinking, so many days to whichever week, is something that they're at the forefront of their minds. They make the decision for whatever reason, and a lot of times it's health.
Yeah, do you think that if the baby's heart is beating at 22 days and the abortion takes place at 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, do you know what kind of abortion takes place at that stage of pregnancy?
An abortion is going to end the life of the child.
But do you know how it happens?
No.
Well, just to make the conversation interesting, The way that they do the abortion is that there's this really high-powered volume vacuum, basically, that's 30 times more powerful than an everyday average vacuum that gets put into the mother's womb, finds the baby where it's at, and it basically sucks it out like liposuction, completely sucking it out as if it's fat or snot or goo, and the baby's heart is already beating. I don't know if you knew that, but what do you think about that?
I mean, I don't really have a deep thought about it at the moment. I would like to look into that for myself. But again, I don't believe that really factors in or should factor in with does a woman have the right to abort?
At what point do you think we should make that choice? Or I should say a pregnant woman should make that choice? At what point
Are you saying,
in her
like,
pregnancy?
is there a difference between like a late-term abortion and an early-term abortion?
I guess, or what point is it okay?
I think that really depends on your own personal circumstances. I can't say that a blanket time cutoff is appropriate for anyone because there are always specialized circumstances that may be a little bit different for each individual person. Again, I think that's why I think education is so important because it's preventative instead of reactive. And I feel like that's where we are with so much of our society now, our healthcare, how we look at things, how we deal with our problems. It's all reactive instead of education first and then being able to prevent the circumstance from even happening.
I like playing devil's advocate, okay? So let's just play a fun game. Let's just say you have like a young girl, she didn't get raped, no incest, she wasn't forced to get pregnant, she willfully had sex, and now she has an unwanted baby, but now she wants to abort the baby. At what point does it become okay to abort the baby?
You have a point there. I don't know. I guess when it comes to the point that like it was in a situation of like that it ended up being abuse and
Let's just say this situation, just this situation.
so she wasn't raped whatsoever.
Because
Maybe financial reasons, like she just can't afford it, and why bring someone into this world when you're gonna end up having to give them up for adoption, which, by the way, like, I'm all for adoption. There's a lot of people out there that want kids who they themselves cannot have kids, so they have to adopt, you know? But obviously our population is growing, like, there's so many people in this world that, I don't know, personally, I just think, like, if it's in the case that child itself, that life is going to be struggling to find a home for the rest of their life or whatever that case is, then, if that person wants to abort them, then by all means, they should have that right too.
I think if the woman is in the position to carry the baby to full term, that is something that she should do. But again, depending on the circumstances.
Well, let's just talk about not like a rape victim or anything like that. Those statistics are actually lower than actual unwanted pregnancies. The statistics of unwanted pregnancy abortions are way higher than unusual cases of rape or incest or anything like that. So let's just talk about an unwanted pregnancy.
All right.
Let's say we do have an unwanted pregnancy. Baby's heart is beating 22 days after conception. The mom doesn't want the baby. Planned Parenthood offers an abortion at 4 to 6 weeks. Do you guys know how that takes place? Do you know what that kind of abortion looks like?
I've seen the videos. I know what happens. Again, at 4 to 6 weeks, a woman might not even know she's pregnant at that point. Usually it's a couple weeks after their first missed period. And
so why would she want to have an abortion then?
Because when she finds out she's pregnant, she doesn't want to be pregnant.
You wouldn't know she was pregnant.
At 4 to 6 weeks.
So why would she get an abortion at 4 to 6 weeks if she didn't know she was pregnant?
Well, at 8 weeks she would know.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so I see what you're saying, is that they're saying that the best time to get it is before they would find out that they were pregnant.
Even if they do know they're pregnant, yeah. 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, so listen, the way it does take place, I'm sure you've seen the videos in earlier abortion when there's toxins involved, which is ridiculous to use on a human being anyways, to poison a human being and kill them like a dog or anything. They basically put like this high-powered vacuum up the mother's womb, and it finds the baby and it sucks the baby out, the vacuum is 30 times more powerful than an everyday average vacuum. And it sucks the baby out like liposuction, completely deteriorating everything that's been developed. The heart is beating already. Would that be considered a murder?
I don't know about that.
Its heart is beating.
But is the brain developed? Can it think?
Does the brain make it life, or does the heart beating make it life?
I think the brain.
You're in a coma, you're not alive? Even though your heart is beating, you're not alive?
If my brain is dead and they suck me through a vacuum cleaner, I'm not going to notice. So
you would be okay if I were to kill you while you're in a coma, and that wouldn't be murder to you?
I'm going to skip the coma part. So no.
It's basically the same thing.
I don't know about that. They kill animals all the time.
A human being is not an animal.
Well, is it a human being yet?
Yes, the heart is beating. A human heart is beating.
Definition.
No, that's medical science, brother.
I don't know about that.
So let's just use a hypothetical, right?
Okay.
What about a teenage girl or a young girl? She didn't get raped. There's no incest. She simply just got pregnant and doesn't want the baby. Now, since you speak about education, statistically, or I should say medically speaking, the baby's heart begins to beat at 22 days after conception. And Planned Parenthood, they say that it's safe to have an abortion between 4 to 6 or 8 weeks. Now, if the heart is beating at 22 days, is it okay to kill that baby at 4 to 6 or 8 weeks?
I think we're confusing a lot of things there. We're taking a heartbeat to consider that somebody has a full conscious body that could survive on their own. We're also assuming that that woman was miseducated or is maybe, I don't know, like not in her own right mind. But again, I think it's all about the personal choice and the personal circumstances. If you are 16 and you feel like you're not ready to give that child the life that you would want to or feel that it deserves, then it's your choice. It is your absolute choice. I don't believe necessarily that because you have a heartbeat that means that that fetus growing within you is a full human or that it would be even murder. I think using the word murder sensationalizes the entire aspect of what abortion is, and so it's a little unfair as well. You know, to say that you are aborting a fetus is a lot different than murdering a baby.
So you think they should kill the baby?
I mean, it's fucked up. It's sad. Excuse my language, but
It's all right.
no. But I don't know. I just think it's for whatever reasons they have that they should do whatever they need to do.
So I've been studying this recently because it's so popular in California, you know? And I actually learned that the baby's heart starts beating at 22 days after conception. Now, Planned Parenthood, they publicly state that it's safe to have an abortion at 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. If the baby's heart is beating at 22 days and you abort the baby at 4 weeks, what is that?
Then that's murder. That is murder then. And that is messed up. I did not know that.
Do you think the baby deserves to live or even have a shot at being adopted?
Definitely. Definitely. You got me speechless right now because I didn't know that information.
So people define life in different ways, and some people define it when the heart is beating. Some people define it as when the baby can live on its own without the mother. Some people define it as a consciousness. It really depends on what the laws and regulations define life as. And so
what is a flat line in a hospital?
I don't know.
Why do we have those in the hospitals? What is that used for?
Right.
What is it?
it's when your heart stops beating.
So why do we use that in hospitals?
Well, it's an
To
emergency.
determine death. To determine death.
I don't know if it does determine death, right?
But if you're flatlined and it never comes back, what are you declared in hospitals?
All this is contingent on the heartbeat being the thing that defines life, and that's your opinion.
That's if the heartbeat defines life for people.
So what do you think defines life?
Consciousness. Is that person or entity or whatever you want to call it before it's born, is it suffering when you kill it?
Even though the heart is beating, the baby's not alive.
I think you're trying to ask me to answer something
That's a scientific fact.
it's a scientific fact, sure.
So what makes them alive? Did you know that the latest that Planned Parenthood claims to do an abortion is around 24 weeks to 30 weeks, about 5.5, 6 months, right? I don't know if you know this, but at that point, if you take a look at the baby in an ultrasound, it is extremely hard to misidentify it as a human being and its gender as well. You can see the baby's eyes, you can see the baby's ears, you can see the baby's nose, you can see its fingers, its feet completely developed at 24 to 30 weeks. Now, when they perform an abortion at that point, I don't know if you know this, but it's a little bit differently. Do you know what the difference is?
They have to cut it up. They have to cut the baby out. Right?
Yeah, they stick the utensils in the mother's womb, they pull the baby out where the baby's hanging out of the womb, they leave the head in. He takes the same utensils, smashes its brains because they think that life is in the brain, not in the heart, opens up the utensils and sticks that same kind of vacuum cleaner in the mother's womb, sucks out the brain as if it's snot or liposuction, and then pulls out the baby because now it's just a thing. It's not a human being because its brain has been demolished, even though its heart has been fully functioned for the past 5.5, 6 months. Is that a murder?
I'm kind of in this area where it's like 5.5 months is like when the baby could live without the mother. And technically, I mean, there's a lot of people that have premature babies at 5.5 months, and that's kind of the area where they can live. So I feel like at that point, maybe even like the end of a 4-month, that's when they should just carry it through. Because by then they haven't made a decision whether they want an abortion or not, and they know well that they've been pregnant for the past couple of months. So if they haven't made a decision by then they should commit to the pregnancy.
Can I just throw this into the conversation? I have a question then. If you look up CDC online, medical statistics, tons of doctors. If you look at Surgeon General warnings on alcohol, they all agree that while a woman is pregnant at the point of conception till the baby comes out, it is never okay to consume alcohol. Why?
Because then you get fetal alcohol syndrome.
But if the baby's not alive, why does it matter?
Because if you're going to carry the baby through to term, the baby is going to come out with disabilities.
But if it's not a living being, what does it matter?
Because it's still
developing.
It's still developing.
It's still developing. You can still do damage to it.
So why are we willing to kill a baby in the womb, but we can't drink alcohol while it's developing in the womb? What's the difference?
At some point, you need to declare it a life, and that's the whole question you're asking.
So why do Surgeon Generals warn pregnant women to not drink alcohol at any point in their pregnancy because you'll damage the baby?
It's still developing before 6 months. I mean, you can still do damage to its developing fetus.
Because of why? Because it's a living being? If it's just a robot, or if it's just goo in a mother's womb, why do we care if we're drinking alcohol? Why does it matter? What about cigarettes? What about smoking? Surgeon General warnings. Did you know that doctors advise pregnant women at any point in pregnancy to not smoke at all because the baby could potentially die at any point in their pregnancy?
I don't support smoking of any types.
I'm not talking about smoking. I'm talking about Surgeon General warnings across the United States that warn pregnant women to not smoke at all because the baby could die at any point.
It's the same thing as alcoholism, right? You can't just sit there and drink when you're pregnant.
Why?
It can cause. It's still developing. You can still cause damage to the developing fetus.
If you're planning on carrying the baby to full term, you should do the best you can at making sure that it will develop healthy and correctly. If you don't plan on carrying that baby to full term,
Then don't have sex.
then don't have sex.
It's too late at that point. If we're talking about abortion, it's too late.
So the baby deserves to die?
That's something the mother has to decide.
Yeah.
Would you perform an abortion and kill a baby yourself?
No.
Why not?
Why would I do that? I think it's disgusting. I'm not going to do that.
But why not?
It's not my problem, really.
I would never take that choice away from somebody else. If they decide that they don't want to take the baby to full term, and there was a set of guidelines on when it's okay to terminate that pregnancy, that should be their decision.
So let's just hypothetical, 24 weeks, baby developed. The baby, you can see its eyes, its heart is beating functionally, pumping blood. The baby actually can start to hear the mother's voice around 24 weeks, and at 12 weeks, the baby's vocal cords are developed as well. It can scream and it can experience pain at 12 weeks as well. You guys don't think that terminating that baby at that point is a murder?
I don't know. Like, you're killing the baby.
So here's another thing, okay? Planned Parenthood claims that the latest the latest that they'll do an abortion is around 24 weeks, around that time. That's about 5.5 months. Now, at that time, the baby is 100% identifiable as a human being. You can see their ears, you can see their eyes, you can see their fingers, you can see their toes. It is extremely hard to misidentify them as a human being. Even at 12 weeks, the baby's vocal cords are beginning to develop and can experience pain. And at 24 weeks, the baby can actually identify the mother's voice. So Planned Parenthood claims that that's the latest they'll do an abortion. What do you think about that? Do you think that that would be considered a murder?
No,
No.
it's an abortion.
No, last one. Okay. Wow. Well, let me ask you this. Let's talk about the medical field then. Okay? Why in hospitals do we have machines that take the readings of a human heart? If it's beeping, it's alive. When it's flatlined, it's what?
Because the human heart is also a machine that we need to live. I mean, we could replace the human heart with the machine, and that person would live.
So you're using the words live. So what's the difference between us and a human baby heart that's beating in the womb and stopping it? What's the difference?
Again, I feel like you're trying to split hairs here and try to make me answer something that I disagree with. I feel like maybe, however, a little bit of the difference is that a person who has lived before and needs a heart transplant, or their heart doesn't work anymore, they can...
Will they die without their heart?
Yes, but a baby that has a heartbeat, or a fetus that has a heartbeat, that then would be have an early delivery, could not live because the rest of themselves wasn't developed as well.
What if you allow the baby to develop, it grows, and it's born, but if you stop it in the womb, what are you doing to the baby?
I mean, again, at that point, I think it's the difference between where you think that life starts. If you think that life truly starts with the beating of a heartbeat, then you have to follow your own choices and your own conscience of your mind then. So I think that is a question that, again, is why it's all about pro-choice.
The latest that Planned Parenthood claims publicly that they'll do an abortion is at 24 weeks to 30 weeks. That's 5.5 to 6 months. At that point, the baby is developed. You can identify its eyes, its nose, its ears, its fingers, and its feet. And even at 12 weeks, the baby's vocal cords are developed and it can scream. So at 24 weeks, if you can completely identify the fetus as a baby, but you kill it in the womb, have you seen an abortion performed after 24 weeks?
I mean, personally, am I like an abortion specialist, and do I watch abortions on TV? No, I do not.
Well, this is what they do. They take these tongue-like things, they put it in the mother's womb, they pull the baby halfway out where the baby's head is still in the womb, and they take the tongs, they puncture the baby's brain, they completely smash the baby's brain, they pull open the tongs, and they suck the baby's brain out with a hyper vacuum that's 30 times more powerful than an everyday average vacuum, and then they take the baby out. Is that not a murder?
I feel like I need to end this interview at this time because you're sensationalizing something and probably wanting me to have a certain response, which I don't feel comfortable giving you.
You want to hear something else kind of crazy? The latest that Planned Parenthood will do an abortion, they say, is at 24 weeks, okay? At that point, it is extremely hard to misidentify the baby as being a human being. Doesn't look like an alien. You can see the eyes, you can see the ears, the mouth, the feet, the hands, everything. Even at 12 weeks, the baby's vocal cords are developed. And it's pretty interesting. At 24 weeks, the baby can even identify their mother's voice. So that's the latest that they'll abort the baby. If a baby's aborted at that point, is that a murder?
That is. All my life I grew up Catholic, so we were taught, pro-life. The only reason why, I've kind of changed my views since then was because I know of people who've had to abort for their own personal reasons, yeah, but learning that information, knowing that is definitely like there's no other word for it besides murder, you know?
This is going to trip you out. Did you know, statistically speaking, the abortions that are performed, they're higher in those of just simply unwanted pregnancies, not rape cases, not incest cases. And statistically speaking, simply unwanted pregnancies are the higher rate.
Wow, I did not know that. That is insane. That is, wow. I'm speechless right now.
Have you ever seen an abortion done at past 24 weeks?
No, I have not.
They have these tong-like looking utensils. They put it in the mother's womb. They pull the baby out where its head is still hanging in the mother's womb and the feet and the arms are hanging out. They stab the baby in the head. They pull open the tongs. They crush the baby's brains. They stick a vacuum inside of it that's 30 times more powerful than the everyday vacuum and suck the baby's brains out and then pull the baby's body out.
Oh my God, that is crazy.
That's at 24 plus weeks.
Oh my God. I had only one drink so far, and that makes me want to throw up.
If you had to watch that, what would that do to you?
Honestly, it probably would kill me inside to see that happening. Would scar anyone. I don't know how someone could go into that, you know, every day and be able to do that. That is crazy.
Are you kind of having second thoughts?
Yes, I am.
Why?
Because of what you told me, all this information.
Are you kind of leaning over to pro-life?
Yes, yeah.
Why?
Because that is just not right. Like that, I don't know, that child doesn't, like, I don't know. From what I said earlier, now that I think about it, maybe they are better off actually having a shot at life than having that ripped out of them when their heart is beating, they're growing, they're alive, but then all of a sudden they're just automatically killed and they didn't even do anything, you know?